Welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be talking about, the potential economic and geopolitical, shifts that might be heading our way.
Yeah, some big changes.
Right. And you shared this amazing conversation with us, Ray Dalio and Tom Bilyeu talking,
Yeah, that was a good one.
packed with insights.
Yeah.
Dalio, he's a legend in finance.
Oh, for sure.
He lays out 5 forces shaping the world, right?
Does, yeah.
But we're going to zero in on 2. The ones that hit closest to home, those internal changes within the U.S., and then, like, the global power dynamics.
Yeah.
How those are changing.
Yeah, the stuff that really impacts our lives.
Right. Exactly. And what I found fascinating is how Dalio frames this whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
He uses this analogy of a new CEO.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, taking over a company like IBM.
Right, a classic company.
Tons of history, but maybe, like, a little slow to adapt.
A little stuck in the past.
Yeah, exactly. So the new CEO's mission is...
Renovation time. Gotta streamline for efficiency.
Right, even if it ruffles some feathers.
You gotta break some eggs to make an omelet, they say.
They do say that. And it sounds familiar, doesn't it, when we think about what's happening right now?
Very familiar.
And one of the tools this new CEO, so to speak, is looking at is industrial policy.
Ah, yeah.
It's a big shift from, that free market gospel we've been hearing forever.
Yeah, for decades, it's been the dominant idea.
So tell me, what is industrial policy?
Okay, so industrial policy is basically the government stepping in
Okay.
to guide the economy, but like in a specific direction.
Okay.
Instead of just letting those market forces play out,
Right.
the government picks winners and losers, kind of.
Oh, interesting.
Using things like targeted investments, subsidies, maybe regulations, even tariffs sometimes to, shape the economic landscape.
So the government is basically saying, we want these industries to thrive, and these ones, not so much.
Well, it's more like we think these industries are strategically important for the future, so we're going to give them a little boost.
I see.
It's a powerful tool, and Dalio seems to think, it's going to be a key part of the playbook going forward.
So what does this mean for the average person? Especially for the working class.
Right, the people who are really feeling the squeeze.
Exactly.
Because Dalio talks about this potential revenge of the working class.
Yeah, I remember that.
Their wages have been stagnant for, so long.
They have?
It feels like, I don't know, a powder keg about to explode.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So how could these policies impact them?
Well, it's tricky. It's a double-edged sword, really.
How so?
Okay, on one hand, these policies could bring back jobs,
Okay.
manufacturing jobs specifically, back to the U.S.,
Oh, okay.
which would be a huge boost for the working class. But,
There's a but coming.
there's always a but. Right. It's not a guaranteed win.
Yeah.
There's also this risk that some folks, some segments of the population could get left behind.
Oh, I see.
If we just focus on efficiency, some sectors might shrink.
Jobs could be lost.
Exactly. And those workers, they might struggle to adapt to this new economy. It's tough.
It is. Dalio seems to have an idea, though, right?
He does, yeah.
To address this, he mentions a Manhattan Project for the economy.
Yeah. That's an ambitious idea.
It is. So break it down for me. What does he mean?
Okay, so imagine, bringing together the brightest minds
Okay.
from all walks of life, economists, policymakers,
Uh-huh.
business leaders, even social scientists,
Yeah.
to tackle this.
To tackle this potential economic restructuring.
Exactly. Because think about it, we've got a ton of debt,
We do?
rising inflation, and then you have automation looming on the horizon.
Right. Those are big problems.
They're huge problems, and Dalio believes this Manhattan Project could be the way to, find solutions.
Right.
To make sure that everyone benefits from the changes, not just, a select few.
It's like a brain trust, coming up with a master plan.
Exactly. The best minds working together.
Okay, I'm starting to see the big picture here. But where does education fit in?
Oh, education's huge.
Right, because Dalio talks about it a lot.
It's central to his vision. He's convinced that, a workforce with strong skills
Okay.
and, what he calls, civility.
Civility.
Yeah, the ability to work together, solve problems constructively. That's what we need for a successful economy. But he's worried, though, about whether our current education system, especially in under-resourced communities, is it really preparing people?
For the jobs of the future.
Right, for what's coming next.
That's a debate we've been having for years.
Oh, yeah.
But it feels even more urgent now, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And Dalio adds fuel to that fire when he says that technology might be a bigger job disruptor than trade wars.
Right.
Like, that's a big statement.
It is, because we're always hearing about trade wars.
Yeah, it's all over the news.
So he's talking about automation, AI, algorithms, all of that.
All of that. Changing the fabric of work. He's basically saying we need to rethink education.
From the ground up.
From the ground up. Less rote memorization, more adaptability.
Okay, I see.
Critical thinking, problem solving. Those are the skills that, like, help people thrive when the only constant is change.
So we've got a lot to think about on the domestic front. But things really get interesting when we zoom out to the global picture.
Yeah, the global stage.
Because Dalio argues that America First, that policy signals a major shift away from this, like, global rule-based order that we're used to.
It's the way things have been.
Right. And he sees it as a move towards, I don't know, a more assertive approach.
Maybe even confrontational.
Yeah, on the world stage.
Definitely more competition, less cooperation.
It's less about, playing nice and more about, hey, we're America, we do what we want.
Yeah, exactly. And Dalio even hints, this new world order, it could lead to more conflict.
More strong-armed conflict, he calls it.
Yeah, that's a little scary to think about.
It is. And this seems to tie into his view on the rise of BRICS.
Oh, yeah, BRICS.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
A force to be reckoned with.
They are becoming a real counterweight to the U.S., aren't they?
They are. They're challenging that U.S. dominance.
And how does Dalio see this all playing out?
Well, he believes it's leading to, like, a more fragmented world.
Okay.
With, multiple power centers vying for influence. It's almost, I don't know.
Like a new Cold War.
Yeah, kind of like that, but with more players involved.
Right, because it's not just about military power anymore.
Not at all.
It's about economic clout, technology,
Soft power.
Yeah, soft power. The influence of culture and ideas.
Exactly. It's a whole new game.
So we have this new, more sort of America, right?
Yeah.
And this rising block of challengers. So what does this mean for everyday people? Are we all going to be caught in the crossfire?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, it leads us to some of those specific economic ideas Dalio talks about.
Okay, like what?
Like tariffs, for example. He's a big believer in those.
Tariffs.
Yeah, which aligns with, that whole America First thing.
Right.
He sees them as a tool, to raise revenue for the government.
Okay.
And protect domestic industries from, like, foreign competition.
But don't tariffs make stuff more expensive? For, like, regular consumers.
They can. It's a trade-off, right?
It is. So there's a potential downside there.
There is. Dalio acknowledges that. Tariffs can lead to higher prices, maybe even fuel inflation.
Okay.
It's complex, it's not a simple answer. He seems to be arguing for, like, a strategic use of tariffs, not just, throwing them around randomly.
Not just being like tariff on everything.
Exactly. It's about, like, finding that balance. Between protecting domestic industries, but not hurting consumers too much.
Right. Finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
So tariffs, not a simple solution. What about modern monetary theory, MMP?
Ooh, MMT.
This idea that governments can just print money.
Right, without worrying too much about debt.
It's been gaining some traction. What does Dalio think about that?
He's not a fan.
He's not.
Nope. Dalio is very much a believer in, fiscal responsibility, sound monetary policy. He says that MMT, it's just not sustainable.
In the long run.
In the long run, you can't just keep printing money, without consequences. Eventually you get inflation, your currency loses value.
Right, and people lose confidence in the whole system.
Exactly.
So it sounds like Dalio is not into quick fixes.
Oh, magic bullets.
Right, or magical thinking when it comes to the economy. He's advocating for a realistic approach.
One that's grounded, in the real world.
Recognizing that it's complicated.
It is. Managing a modern economy is complex, lots of trade-offs.
And he's highlighting how everything is connected.
Yeah, like what happens here affects everyone.
What happens in the U.S. doesn't stay in the U.S.
Exactly. Domestic policies, they have these ripple effects.
Across the globe.
Across the globe. And the choices we make today, they have consequences.
For years to come.
For years to come.
This has been a really interesting look at the big picture.
Yeah, it is fascinating stuff.
But let's zoom back in for a second.
Yeah.
Let's focus on individuals, the people who are maybe feeling anxious about their jobs, their future.
Oh, yeah. It's a natural reaction to all this change.
It is. And Dalio gets that. He doesn't shy away from those concerns.
Not at all.
He talks about this potential disconnect between job losses in the public sector, as the government shrinks and becomes more efficient,
Okay.
and the ability of the private sector to absorb all those workers,
Right.
especially like older workers who have specialized skills. Like they spent their whole careers working for the government.
Yeah, they might have a harder time transitioning.
It's like a game of musical chairs, right?
It is, yeah. Some people might be left standing when the music stops.
What does Dalio suggest we do about this?
Well, he points to Singapore,
Yeah, Singapore.
yeah, as a potential model. Their education system is like top-notch.
It is.
They focus on practical skills, preparing people for the workforce.
Okay.
And they've created this like super productive and efficient economy, low unemployment, high social mobility.
So are there lessons the U.S. can learn from Singapore? I mean, it's very different context, right?
Yeah, it's a different context. But there might be some transferable lessons.
Like what?
Dalio highlights a few things. Investing in early childhood education, for one, providing strong vocational training,
Okay.
and then like fostering a culture of hard work and discipline. It's not just about copying them exactly, but about, being open to new ideas.
Right. Learning from what works, even if it's somewhere else.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah, it's a complex puzzle, but the pieces are starting to fall into place.
We've only just begun to unpack Dalio's insights, though.
There's a lot more to dig into.
We'll dive deeper into all of this in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go too far down the Singapore rabbit hole, I think it's worth circling back to Dalio's point about technology
Oh,
being a bigger disruptor than trade wars.
right.
It's easy to get caught up in those headlines,
Totally.
about tariffs and trade deals.
It's all over the news.
But this tech shift, it's happening no matter what.
Right.
And it's going to impact everyone.
It's like this silent revolution
Yes.
happening right under our noses.
Yeah, and it's easy to miss when you're focused on all that political back and forth.
Right. But it's changing the very nature of work.
It is changing everything.
Isn't it?
Absolutely. And the pace of change.
Yeah.
It's only speeding up.
Right.
Think about how much our lives have changed.
Oh, my God.
Just in the last decade.
I know.
Now imagine that on steroids.
Whoa.
We're talking AI, machine learning, robotics, automation,
Wow.
taking over tasks that humans used to do.
Yeah, and it's not just blue-collar jobs either.
No, not at all.
White-collar professions, too.
Absolutely. Lawyers, doctors, accountants,
Wow.
you name it.
So it's not just jobs disappearing. It's the skills needed for the jobs that are left.
Right. They're changing so fast.
Changing rapidly.
Exactly. And that's where Dalio's emphasis on adaptability comes in.
Makes sense.
It's not enough to just learn one skill set anymore.
Right.
You need to be a lifelong learner.
Oh, for sure.
Someone who can pick up new skills, quickly adapt to new situations, solve problems creatively.
It's like that old saying, right?
What's that?
Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime.
I like that.
But in this case, it's more like teach a person how to learn, and they can feed themselves for a lifetime.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
And it highlights the importance of not just education,
Uh-huh.
but the right kind of education.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
One that focuses on developing those core cognitive skills, critical thinking, problem solving, adaptability, collaboration.
So it's not just about stucking your head with facts anymore.
No.
It's about learning how to think, how to learn how to adapt.
Exactly.
This brings up a really important question, though.
What's that?
What happens to the people who are displaced by all this?
Oh, yeah, the people who lose their jobs.
Right, who don't have those adaptable skills or who just can't keep up with the pace of change.
That's a tough question.
Does Dalio offer any solutions?
He doesn't have any easy answers,
Right.
but he does emphasize the need for a plan.
Okay, I'm playing.
He worries that this focus on efficiency,
Yeah.
might come at the expense of compassion and
Right.
social safety nets.
He's not against helping people,
No, not at all.
but he's concerned about...
He thinks it needs to be designed in a way that encourages people to retrain,
Okay.
to re-enter the workforce.
To get back on their feet.
Yeah, not to become dependent on handouts.
So it's about striking that balance
It is.
between providing support,
Right.
but also incentivizing people to adapt and contribute.
Exactly. It's a tricky balance.
It is... Dalio also talks about this concept of broad-based productivity
Oh, yeah.
being key to a healthy economy.
Uh-huh.
What does he mean by that?
Well, he's basically saying that a truly successful economy is one where everyone has the opportunity to contribute.
To be a part of it?
Yeah, and to benefit from it.
So it's not just about the people at the top.
Nope.
It's about lifting everyone up.
Exactly. And he sees education, particularly in disadvantaged communities, as crucial for achieving this broad-based productivity.
So it's not just about economic growth.
No.
It's about economic justice. And social mobility.
Precisely, Dalio believes that a society with widespread poverty and inequality isn't going to be very productive or stable in the long run.
It's going to hold everyone back.
Exactly, and that's why he's so focused on education.
Makes sense.
And creating opportunities for everyone to participate in the economy.
To have a stake in the game.
Exactly.
He also talks about the importance of civility.
Oh, yes, civility.
What does he mean by that?
Well, he's talking about the ability to disagree respectfully.
Okay.
To work together constructively.
Right.
Even when you have different viewpoints.
Even when you don't see eye to eye.
Exactly. He sees this as essential for a functioning democracy.
Oh, for sure.
And a thriving economy.
Because if we're always fighting with each other, nothing's going to get done.
It's hard to solve problems.
Right.
When you're constantly at each other's throats.
It seems like civility's in short supply these days.
It does, doesn't it?
We're so polarized.
Yeah.
So quick to demonize anyone who disagrees with us.
It's a worrying trend.
It is. It's hard to imagine having a productive conversation.
Right.
Let alone solving big problems in that kind of environment.
Dalio sees it as a real threat.
He does.
He's more worried about the extremes on both sides than he is about any specific policy.
So it's not about left versus right.
No.
It's about extreme versus moderate.
Exactly. He believes that this polarization and lack of civility are major obstacles to progress.
So what do we do about it?
That's the million-dollar question.
How do we restore civility in a society that seems so divided?
Well, Dalio emphasizes education as a way to instill values of tolerance and respect.
Starting young.
Yeah. He also believes that leaders have a responsibility to set a positive example.
To walk the walk.
Exactly, and to promote a more civil discourse.
So it's not just about what we teach in schools.
No, it's about the broader culture, too.
Right, the messages that young people are getting from their families, their communities, the media.
It's a holistic view of education.
I like that.
He's saying we need to create a culture that values critical thinking, open-mindedness, respectful dialogue.
And that starts with each of us.
It does.
In our own interactions with others.
Exactly.
Dalio also mentions the need for a Manhattan Project for the economy.
Yes, that's a big idea.
What exactly does he have in mind?
Well, he envisions bringing together the best minds from across the political spectrum.
So not just one side.
No, not at all.
People with different views.
Economists, policymakers, social scientists, educators, community leaders.
Wow, a real brain trust.
The goal would be to develop a comprehensive plan to address the challenges we've been talking about.
Economic inequality, workforce disruption.
Yeah, the erosion of social trust.
The need to prepare for the future of work.
It's a tall order.
It's hard to imagine getting people with such diverse views to agree on anything.
It would be a challenge.
For sure.
But Dalio believes it's necessary.
He does.
He argues that we need to move beyond the partisan bickering, the ideological gridlock that have paralyzed our political system.
Right. It feels like we're stuck.
He's calling for a new kind of leadership.
Okay, what does that look like?
One that's willing to put aside short-term political gains in favor of long-term solutions that benefit the entire country.
Solutions that actually solve the problems.
Exactly.
It's a tall order.
It is.
But it's also an inspiring vision. It suggests that even in the face of all these challenges, there's still hope for progress.
There is.
If we can find a way to work together.
That's the key.
To put aside our differences and focus on the common good.
Exactly.
That's the key takeaway from Dalio's perspective.
It is.
We need to find a way to bridge our divides.
Right.
Embrace change and invest in the future.
And that starts with recognizing the magnitude of the challenges we face.
Yeah, we can't bury our heads in the sand.
Nope.
We have to acknowledge the problems and be willing to have honest, difficult conversations about how to address them.
That's the starting point.
So it's not about pretending everything is fine.
No.
Or clinging to outdated ideologies.
Right.
It's about facing reality, being open to new ideas and working together to find solutions.
That's the path forward.
We've talked a lot about the big picture.
We have.
But let's zoom in on some of the specific policy ideas that Dalio mentions.
Okay.
He's a big believer in tariffs, for example.
He is. And this is where things get interesting. Because tariffs are a very controversial topic.
They are.
Some people see them as a way to protect domestic industries,
Right.
level the playing field, while others view them as protectionist measures that hurt consumers
Right.
and stifle free trade.
So where does Dalio fall in this spectrum?
It's a good question.
Is he advocating for a full-blown trade war?
I don't think so.
Or is he suggesting a more nuanced approach?
It seems like he's advocating for a strategic use of tariffs, not just slapping them on willy-nilly.
Not just a blanket tariff on everything.
Exactly. He sees them not only as a way to protect domestic industries, but also as a potential source of revenue for the government.
So it's about being smart about it.
Yeah.
Using tariffs strategically to achieve specific goals.
Exactly.
But he also acknowledges the potential downsides. Right?
He does.
Like higher prices for consumers.
Right.
And the risk of retaliation from other countries.
Of course, he's not naive about the complexities of international trade.
He understands that there are trade-offs involved.
Absolutely.
And that any decision about tariffs is going to have winners and losers.
It's unavoidable.
So it's about weighing those costs and benefits.
Right.
And making decisions based on a careful analysis of the potential consequences.
It's about being thoughtful and strategic.
Not just reacting emotionally.
Exactly.
It seems like Dalio is advocating for a more active role for government in managing the economy.
He is.
He's not a laissez-faire free market purist.
Nope. He believes that government has a role to play.
Okay.
In fostering innovation, supporting education, creating a level playing field.
But he's also wary of government inefficiency and overreach.
He doesn't want the government to stifle growth or create unintended consequences.
So it's about finding that sweet spot.
It is.
Where government can be a positive force,
right,
without overstepping its bounds.
It's that classic tension between the free market and the role of government.
Right, and Dalio seems to be suggesting that the key is finding the right balance.
That sweet spot where government can foster innovation and opportunity.
Without stifling growth or creating unintended consequences.
Exactly. It's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
And one that's likely to be hotly debated.
Oh, sure.
As the U.S. navigates this new political landscape and its place in the evolving world order.
Dalio doesn't shy away from the complexities of these issues.
He doesn't.
He acknowledges that there are no easy answers.
Nope.
And that many of these policy decisions involve difficult trade-offs.
There's no magic bullet.
He also seems to be cautioning against complacency.
He is.
He points out that the U.S. has been the dominant global power for decades.
We have.
But that this dominance is being challenged.
By the rise of other powers.
Right, like China and India.
Exactly.
And he suggests that the U.S. needs to adapt to this new reality.
We do.
By being more strategic in its foreign policy, investing in innovation and education, and addressing its internal divisions.
It's a call to action.
It is.
A reminder that the future of the U.S., both economically and geopolitically, is not guaranteed.
We can't just rest on our laurels.
Nope, we have to work for it.
It depends on the choices we make today.
Exactly.
And those choices are likely to be shaped by the interplay of the 5 forces that Dalio outlines.
Right. The money, credit, and debt cycle, the internal order and disorder, the international order, acts of nature and technology.
Those forces are all interconnected.
They are.
And constantly evolving.
It's a complex system.
It is.
It's difficult to predict.
For sure. But Dalio's insights provide a valuable framework.
They do.
For understanding these forces and how they might shape the future.
It's like a roadmap.
It is. He emphasizes the importance of being aware of these forces.
Right.
Understanding the historical patterns.
Learning from the past.
And making decisions based on sound principles and a long-term perspective.
It's about thinking ahead.
Not just reacting to the latest crisis.
Exactly.
It's a call for clear-eyed realism.
It is.
A recognition that the world is changing.
And that the U.S. needs to adapt.
If it wants to maintain its position of leadership and prosperity,
we can't afford to be complacent.
He also highlights the importance of leadership.
Yes, leadership is crucial.
Both in government and in the private sector.
Absolutely.
He believes that strong, principled leaders,
people with vision and integrity,
are essential for navigating these complex challenges.
And creating a brighter future.
He seems to be suggesting that leadership is not just about power or charisma.
No.
It's about wisdom, courage, and a deep understanding of the forces at play.
It's about serving others.
And it's not just about those in official positions of power either.
Right.
It's about each of us stepping up and taking responsibility for the future.
We all have a role to play.
You know what's fascinating about Dalio?
What's that?
Is his relentless focus on learning and adapting.
He's a lifelong learner.
He's constantly questioning his own assumptions, seeking out new information, refining his understanding of the world.
He's never satisfied with the status quo.
And that's what makes him such a compelling thinker.
It is.
He's not afraid to admit when he's wrong, to change his mind, or to embrace new ideas.
He's always evolving.
And that's a valuable lesson for all of us.
It is.
In a world that's changing as rapidly as ours.
Right.
The ability to learn and adapt is more important than ever.
It's essential for survival.
We need to be lifelong learners.
Yes.
Constantly seeking out new knowledge, challenging our own beliefs, evolving our perspectives.
That's how we thrive in a world of complexity and uncertainty.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive so far.
It has.
I feel like we've covered so much ground, but there's still so much more to explore.
Dalio's insights are like a springboard for further inquiry.
They raise more questions than they answer.
They do.
But those questions are the starting point for deeper understanding.
They are.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive like this.
It is.
It's not about arriving at definitive answers.
Yeah.
It's about opening up new avenues of exploration, challenging our assumptions, and expanding our understanding of the world.
It's about embracing the complexity and uncertainty of our times.
And equipping ourselves with the knowledge and the mindset.
To navigate those challenges effectively.
I think one of the most important takeaways from this conversation so far
What's that?
is that the future is not predetermined.
It's not set in stone.
It's not something that just happens to us.
We have a say in it.
It's something that we create through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to learn and adapt.
We are the architects of our own future.
And that's a message of both responsibility and empowerment.
It is.
We have the power to shape the future.
But that power comes with a responsibility to use it wisely.
This deep dive has really challenged me to think differently about the world.
Me too.
About my own role in it.
And about the possibilities for the future.
I hope it's having the same impact on you, the listener.
We hope so.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the shifting geopolitical landscape to the impact of technology on the workforce to the importance of education and adaptability.
It's been a whirlwind tour.
But the real journey begins now.
It does.
As you take these insights.
And apply them to your own life, your own work, and your own engagement with the world.
So as we move into the final part of this deep dive,
Okay.
we want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
A question to ponder.
How might the increasing role of technology in the workforce require us to rethink our traditional models of education and social safety nets?
How can we prepare ourselves and future generations for a world where the nature of work is constantly evolving and where lifelong learning is no longer an option but a necessity?
We encourage you to ponder these questions, to continue exploring these ideas, and to engage in meaningful conversations with those around you.
Talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues.
Remember, the future is not something that simply happens to us.
We have a hand in creating it.
It's something we create through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to embrace the challenges and opportunities of our time. As we get into this idea of tech disruption, and needing to adapt, I think what's really striking about Dalio is how much he believes in personal responsibility.
Yeah, it's not all doom and gloom with him.
Right. He's honest about the challenges, but he also, empowers people to, take control of their own lives.
He's saying, hey, the world's tough, but you're not powerless.
Exactly. You have the power to act, to learn, to adapt, to make your own opportunities.
And that's where education is so important in his view.
Right, because he sees education as more than just learning facts or skills.
It's about personal growth, empowerment.
Giving people the tools they need to navigate a world that's constantly in flux.
Right, to adapt to new challenges, find new opportunities.
That's not just about learning one job anymore. It's about learning how to learn.
Exactly, learning how to think critically, solve problems, be creative.
Those are the skills that will be valuable no matter what industry you're in.
Right, because the only constant is change.
Dalio uses this analogy of the generalist versus the specialist.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He says in the past, you could specialize in one thing and have a stable career.
Right, like a cobbler or a blacksmith.
But now, it's the generalists who are going to thrive.
The people who can adapt, learn new things, connect the dots.
It's not about abandoning specialized knowledge completely.
No, but you need that broader foundation.
A mindset of always learning.
Being adaptable, resourceful, resilient.
Seeing change as an opportunity, not a threat.
Exactly, a chance to reinvent yourself, grow.
And this connects back to Dalio's point about civility, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
He says a society that can have respectful dialogue, even when they disagree. That's a society that can solve problems and adapt to change.
Being able to see things from different perspectives, find common ground.
Recognizing that we're all in this together, that we share responsibility for the future.
And that we can achieve more together than we can divided.
It's a powerful message, especially now, when everything feels so polarized.
We need to move past those echo chambers and the tribalism.
Be willing to listen to each other, learn from each other.
Find those bridges.
And that brings us back to that Manhattan Project for the economy.
Dalio's big idea.
He's not just talking about specific policies, right?
No, it's bigger than that.
He's calling for a fundamental shift in how we think.
A willingness to put our differences aside.
To work together to solve these big challenges.
To be bold, think bigger, embrace collaboration and innovation.
He's saying we have the talent, the resources, the smarts to do it.
But we need the will, the leadership.
It's a call to action, you know? We can't just sit back and wait.
We have to be active in shaping the future, both individually and as a society.
And I think that's the key takeaway from this whole deep dive.
What's that?
There's hope. Even with all these challenges, we have the power to create a better future.
For ourselves, for our kids, for everyone.
This deep dive has been, well, a real journey. We've covered so much.
The geopolitical landscape, technology, education, adaptability.
It's challenged us to think differently.
To question our assumptions, be open to new ideas.
But the real journey starts now for you, the listener.
Taking these ideas and making them your own.
Applying them to your life, your work, your engagement with the world.
The future is not something that just happens. It's something we create.
Through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to embrace the challenges and opportunities that come our way.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep questioning.